Well, I'm not sure whose idea that was exactly to go fly down mountains. You know, we've obviously had that idea in our head from doing some blade running stuff. And, you know, we were all really interested in it. We did an expedition in Switzerland, and it went pretty good. It was like the first one we did, so we learned a lot there, you know. And we wanted to do it better and bigger and better. Went to France, to Chamonix.
It's a quaint village. It's very old. Has a lot of history. They have a statue downtown, yeah, Chamonix, of the two gentlemen that first climbed to the summit of Mount Blanc. Back then, they didn't have obviously near the gear. This is late 1800s, so it was a pretty daring feat for that time. Here's us arriving in Chamonix for the first time on the bus.
You see it from a long ways away. You think it's right there, but just keep going and going.
And it seems like the valley just keeps opening up, getting bigger and just higher, and it just expands out. It's absolutely fascinating. They call it Mount Blanc Massif, and it definitely is massive. It's extremely large.
It's so massive. Everything I've seen in the United States, it's times 10 at least. It's so much bigger, so much bigger.
This is us taking our first trip up to Aiguille de Midi, which is the highest tram in the world. It's pretty much the only place in the world where you can pay $30 and get on a cable tram and take a 20-minute ride and step off on a balcony that's 13,500 feet high. So this was unique, being able to go up to 13,500 feet and look over at the mountain range that we're actually going to attempt to fly down. It's so big that even when you're flying over it, you don't realize how big it is. It looks like it's right there, like you could reach out and touch it, but you could be miles away from it. That's how massive it is.
Came back down, we hopped on the snowboards, and as we were descending, we chose to descend on our own. And after exiting the top, at the top, and hopping out, we'd notice all these people with ropes and all kinds of like ice axes and picks and whatnot. And we just assumed that they were maybe partial climbers, whatever. Didn't really make much of it at that time. And as we started snowboarding and enjoying the runs and starting a route selection, we realized what we got ourselves into. That was just the beginning of this adventure.
We looked at different ridges that looked like they could be flown down and had a safe place to land at the bottom, and we checked those with our topographical map. Did some homework on that. Then we actually snowboarded the runs and got right down at the bottom of these mountains and looked up them, you know. And so a lot of them, because the mountains were so big, it's hard to tell. You know, it looks okay, that looks good, and you get down there, and by the time you get there, it looks totally different because it's so far away and so big.
Our French translator talked to the guide and says, "No, you need a professional guide, and you need ropes and harness to negotiate this and ski or snowboard." Then a few minutes later, they told her that they couldn't necessarily stop us from doing it. They just highly recommend that we don't do it. And then we were over the fence, and then we were off.
And still, with being the cocky Americans we don't really want to be, but just thought, "Dad, we can do this on our own." And it wasn't until getting into the snowboard trip we realized how deep we are in over our heads, and we got to be really cautious.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad.
Dude, we could have come up
gnarly, dude. What are you talking about? I'll tell you how gnarly it was. There was times when we had to take our boards off. Like, Luigi, I thought we were going to lose. Remember that, Lou?
I almost fell in a crevice. I was in a big trouble. I was very scared. And Jim started yelling at me, "Oh, stick your feet, do something." And I barely stopped, maybe like 4 feet before the crevice. And I saw the guide over there on the right trail. He was talking something about me. I'm pretty sure he was talking something. "Do you guys see what I'm telling you guys not supposed to do?"
If we were at all a little bit out of control or not paying attention and looking where we were going, or if there was maybe a slight little wind that kicked up, we could come up on a crevice so quick and not see it and be gone that quick. That was how serious it was. So it was serious. There's no doubt about it.
It's interesting to me, and people should know, that Mount Blanc More mountain climbers die on Mount Blanc than any other mountain in the world, including Mount Everest. It's a very fierce mountain, and I guess it's mainly due to, not necessarily because it's the highest mountain in the world, it's not, it's just the highest mountain in the European Alps, but it has so many glaciers involved with it, you know, it's a lot of rock and glacier, so quite a few people die there, guides, mountain climbers, and other people that do other things, like Americans. The heliport actually has the topographical maps actually stick out from the wall, so you see elevation differences and slope angles and stuff. And in conjunction with that, we're going up and looking at it up on Midi at 13,500 feet.
We got in a little bit of a conflict because, I mean, this is our lights we're talking about, yeah, and we're up at high altitude, so our canopy is going to be flying a lot faster than they normally do. So the landing area is critical. A couple of us felt like, oh, this would be a great place to land, no problem. And a couple of us were like, you got to be out of your mind. What are you talking about? This is not safe at all. There's nothing about this place that looks safe to land.
There were several places, I'd say almost half of the places we'd considered landing and the places we considered run, we didn't do after the observation ride. It becomes too risky. The risk assessment, it gets high, and it may not be worth it. First run down the ridge, we were a little bit standoffish, not too much, but a little bit, only because we're feeling it out. I think even Clint was more standoffish at first because, you know, it's the first time down the ridge. But for the most part, I think me and JC and...
What are you talking about, dude? What are you talking about? The first run, I remember, I mean, I was 10 feet behind him thinking, oh my God, and he was getting ready to rip right through these two towers.
I knew that these guys wouldn't follow me through this gap that I was going through, but it was like I couldn't not, you know, it's like perfect, perfect thing to fly through here, so yeah.
For the most part, most parachutes, if you open them, no matter what maneuvers you do spiraling, you're not going to stay with the mountain. We're not just opening our parachutes and flying over the mountain, we're flying with the mountain. If you have the physical skill, then you can make the right inputs as a pilot. You can fly the canopy and match it with the slope of the mountain. It's taking this wing as a tool and using it for exploration and trying to stay with the mountain.
We were flying a canopy, it's called the VX, Extreme VX. It's a very rigid wing. It's the highest performance parachute any of us have ever jumped.
Do not try this at home. It's like driving your car on the freeway doing 60 in rush hour traffic and the brakes going out. You still have to negotiate the traffic, but you can't slow down. I personally didn't really want to leave without flying the summit of Mount Blanc, because that's what I really want to do. I think a lot of us want to do. So we realized, well, the only way we're going to do it is we land there, and then we started kicking around. What do you think?
We want to land these high performance canopies in real thin air, in a real cold environment, on the top of a very, very small, you know, a very, very large mountain, but in a small area on the top of this mountain. And if we miss, there's a chance we're going to end up in Italy. If we miss the other direction, we might end up in a huge glacier field and never be found again.
There really even isn't any talk of what ifs. We don't talk about it because this is what we're going to do. So you can imagine how we felt when we got out, and shortly after parachute opens, we all realize in our own time that it's not going to happen.
My canopy didn't have the lift his canopy had, and I was feeling like I was just sinking. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. You know, they may make it, I will not make it. I thought that I would just like hit there and my canopy would collapse and I would slide, you know, and die. And then I saw he's going to that direction. I was like, I almost lost my air because I was concerned. I didn't want him to die. I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen to him? And I saw he's coming, and you know, he crashed there, and he stayed there. He doesn't move. His canopy doesn't move. He doesn't move. That was a very scary time for me. I was thinking under canopy that, you know, what I am doing, you know, I should respect more the nature and, you know, all the facts. So it's pretty intense.
I remember the only thing Clint was saying when we landed was, was we're stupid. We almost killed ourselves. And he was right, and that's kind of how we all felt.
I remember feeling my whole body was numb, and it was a different kind of a numb. It wasn't a numb from cold. It was a numb from just recognizing that we're putting ourselves in such a position and wondering if the rewards were really worth the risks that we're taking. I mean, the whole idea was to descend, not to descend and land in one spot. It was to descend and enjoy the ride, enjoy the actual visuals and the stimulation you get from staying close to a ridge and enjoying that, the speed, the sensation of the action that's going on.
Looking at my teammates, not saying a word, and thinking, I might not see these guys again. This is it. That is the point. You're at the very edge of what we do. We've made it to our, maybe not our limit, but we're to one of those milestones,
At first, I kind of forgot to enjoy myself and actually take a moment and really recognize what we just had done. I was glad Clint was there to kind of say, hey, check this out. Take a look around.
It's very impressive, it's overwhelming, and to the point where you really can't sum it up in words. It's just one of those experiences you carry with you in your lifetime, and will never be erased from your memory.
I have to say it was probably one of the most memorable experiences of my life.
We're flying up the birds, so we're soaring the mountain, but it's not for the unprepared and it's not for the weak, because you realize that at any moment the mountain could just take you out. You have to respect the mountain.